Hello, welcome.
Hi.
Welcome to Unpacking the Plot and our extra long premiere episode.
Woo. Normally we're gonna have episodes about half this time, or not, but definitely less time than this one.
Today we are going to be connecting fandoms to Taylor Swift's new album, The Tortured Poets Department. And just like this episode, the album is extra long, so it took extra time to talk about.
Let's introduce ourselves like a little bit before we just dive into these things.
Well, I'm Ava.
I'm Issa.
We're fans, readers, consumers of all media, so TV shows, books, movies.
Comics, etc. And we're friends. Online friends, though. We have never met in person. It's very sad.
My goal is for us to meet for the first time at a Taylor Swift concert.
I I would love that.
Your goal was the Vampire Diaries convention.
That is my goal. But we came together because we both write. We're writers.
We are writers, aspiring novelists.
Storytelling in general matters a lot to us, especially characters. We really love characters.
Character motivations.
Yeah. In general, we tend to look at things kind of through a storytelling lens. We pretty much regularly study story structure. We are pretty immersed in it.
And that's kind of what we want to bring here to Unpacking the Plot. We found ourselves consistently talking about these characters and their motivations and what we felt would have been good storylines and what we felt was lacking. And that's kind of what we want to talk about here. We're not professionals, but we do have our own little spin to things. And when it comes down to it, we're just fans of the media.
And we want to look at old things we're fans of, new things we could become fans of. And we also have a lot to introduce to each other because we are a generation apart.
Got your signature millennial over here.
I am a Gen Z, a Zoomer, if you will, a Doomer,
Humor.
a Doomer even.
This is not a spoiler-free podcast.
Just brush over my doom and gloom like that. I'll see how it is.
We're going to be talking about the Tortured Poets Department. It's a little gloomy and doomy anyway.
Okay. Anyway, we just hope you listen along with us and join us on our little journey to unpack the plot.
Straight from the Tortured Poets Department. So, our episodes after this one will be a little more cohesive and we'll be covering either a show or book or a series. But since this is Taylor's album, Tortured Poets Department, we talk about a lot of different things. And so we'll be jumping around from fandom to fandom, kind of bringing it back to the songs we feel fit those characters and what those songs resonate in us from our favorite fandoms.
So, the Torture Post Department has been out for a few months now. We've had a good deal of time to listen to it, and I like it.
And I just can't stop listening to it. So this is just for fun. We are by no means music professionals. I'm quite sure I'm the opposite.
We're just checking these characters into the department, off they go.
Think of it like if you really like this song, you might like this show.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's get started. What's first on your list?
Okay, so the first song on my list is Fresh Out the Slammer, which I wrote for Elena Gilbert, the main character of the Vampire Diaries, specifically the show. That is about a human girl who lives in a town called Mystic Falls, and her life changes when two vampire brothers, Stefan and Damon Salvatore, come to town. So I figure Fresh Out the Slammer fits for when Elena leaves Stefan for Damon, because Fresh Out the Slammer is just kind of like, all right, I'm out of this relationship and I'm going straight to another one. And that's exactly what happened in the show.
Yeah. I also feel like Guilty as Sin is a really good song for them. Correct me if I'm wrong. Her and Stefan had broken up before she started. He broke up with her before he
Anyway,
disappeared,
and
right?
it was not really official, just kind of like he left. And because he had to leave with Klaus or whatever. They didn't actually break up, but they weren't technically. I mean, no, they were together because in season 6, when she's trying to get rid of her memories, she feels guilty because she fell in love with Damon while she was with Stefan, and that was when Stefan was gone.
So it's like she started having feelings for him because he was the one that was really there for her and like nothing happened, but she still had those feelings
Guilty as sin.
without ever touching his skin.
Ah, correct. Except when they were trying to find Stefan and they had that makeout session
Yes, she
at the
definitely touched
motel.
his skin there. That was such a good first kiss.
That's why I'm biased to a particular song here in the Torture Poets department. But yeah, I can't imagine just having someone ready to go after a relationship.
I think with Elena, she wanted so hard to make her relationship with Stefan work.
Mm-hmm.
Like she wanted to make that work so hard because she didn't want to be like Catherine. I
Yeah.
think it's interesting because I think if Catherine hadn't been in the picture, which obviously would have changed the whole landscape, but it's interesting to think about what Elena's decision making would have looked like if she wasn't so afraid of being like Catherine.
Actually, I have Catherine and Elena for thank you, aIMee. You mentioned guilty as sin earlier. I wrote
Mhm.
that for Caroline and Klaus. And then I wrote that down, and then I was like, well, actually, this could work for any of Klaus's love interests because no one is happy that they like him. But can we blame them? Klaus is one of the original vampires who gets his own spin-off show, The Originals. And though he's alluring to these women, he's an extremely violent and dangerously emotional person. Like in
I
the
don't
originals, he has another love interest, and I love her. I love her so much, and it really pisses me off that the people who were Claraline fans, they literally bullied that actress until like so badly that they had to write her off the show. Like, because she couldn't stay on the cast. She was so her mental health and everything. She's like, I can't keep doing this.
supposedly that's what happened on Supernatural.
Um,
Speaking of guilty as sin, I have Sam and Andy from Rookie Blue. It's like a cop drama. Guilty as sin because like the two main characters, Sam and Andy, both like long for each other throughout the show, even though I mean they get together at points, but it's like then they're also with other people at certain points.
mhm.
Next song that I have for the show, which is Fresh Out the Slammer, because Andy and Sam have been attracted to each other and had this really great chemistry since day one, but their relationship was forbidden. They couldn't pursue it. And then in this part of the show, she's so ready to run to Sam because her and Luke are over and she can finally visit that relationship. And she's just so happy at the same time. And, he has these reservations where he's like, how can she be so ready when she was just in that relationship? Because, I mean, you never really know how somebody else feels, but you can see it when you look at her, how happy she is and just ready.
So you feel like Fresh Out the Slammer really conveys that for you? You look at the song and you're like, what characters, what fandom goes with this? That's what comes to mind for you.
Yeah, I mean, I know who my first call will be too. He don't understand me.
The show sounds like it has more drama than like cop stuff.
It does. I really love the main characters' chemistry and the way that I sometimes I struggle with on again, off again relationships if it's my OTP. And with them, I liked how even when they weren't together, they still interacted and you had that hope for them as characters.
Do people still use the term one-two pairing?
I
OTP?
don't know.
Is that
Just
still a
popped
thing?
into my head. Should I not say it? Should we cut that out?
No, it's fine. I was a Tumblr girl in 2014. I'm aware of that phrase.
I don't really use it, but I felt like it fit there.
One time, I think Amazon asked me for a one-time password and it said, put in your OTP. And I was like, all right, Amazon. And I wrote Delana. I wanted to talk a little bit about So Long London. I don't feel like my choice is perfect, but I feel like of what I know, it works. So I was thinking of Stefan for So Long London in relation to him with Elena. And So Long London is kind of like a song of like, this is a place I loved because you introduced me to it and you made it someplace I could love. And it could be like a metaphorical place or a real place. Like we can do whatever we want because Taylor Swift songs are just really, really personal. So if she's gonna be metaphorical, I'm allowed to be metaphorical.
I like that though, because if you look at the lyrics and and you say, I abandoned the ship, but I was going down with it, my white knuckle dying grip, he walked away from her to go do his whole Klaus thing.
Mm-hmm.
And she tried so hard to find him. And then, she even went back to him after he came back and she tried and she tried and she tried. And it just,
She
her
really
feelings
tried.
changed.
Yeah, like that's a good point you mentioned because I came into it thinking of like one person towards another person, not like the back and forth. But Stefan, I feel I can hear his voice with the general like I loved this place and you ruined it for me. I mean, he was in Mystic Falls first, we all know that. But like I feel a bit more like this became a place that he learned to love because of his relationship with Elena. He was able to love her, love the place, have a good time. And then she left, but not without, the white knuckle dying grip. So, yeah, that's how I feel about So Long London. I wanted to discuss with you, thank you, aIMee. I know that was hard for both of us to figure one out for that. We're not at all song analyzers. We're just doing this for fun. Like, just so we could talk about everything we like and Taylor Swift at the same time.
Another thing we like,
Everything.
all of the things.
So, for thank you, aIMee, how do you feel about it in relation to Elena and Catherine? Because I feel like she isn't necessarily grateful towards her, but in a sense, she very well can be. Like a lot of her, like Catherine set it all in motion, all the things that I mean, you could take it back further and be like, Klaus set it all in motion. But like the reason why she knows the Salvatore brothers, the reason why she became so firm in her values, knowing that she didn't want to become like Catherine, it's kind of because Catherine was there. Like she knew Catherine. It's just like the song where she's like, fuck you. But you know what? I'm kind of grateful at the same time.
Yeah, I think that Catherine would work for Thank You, aIMee, especially if you think about Damon and Elena from a soulmates perspective. Because if you think about Damon being Elena's endgame, then that wouldn't have happened if it hadn't been for Catherine. I mean, Catherine turned Damon and is the reason that Damon and Stefan came to Mystic Falls as vampires because they would have been long dead. So you can kind of look at it like that. And if you think of Damon and Elena as soulmates, or even for that matter, the people who ship Stefan and Elena and think of them as soulmates, then that wouldn't have really been possible without Catherine turning the boys into vampires.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I equate the song to like a bullying relationship and
Mm-hmm.
it changing your life and pushing you to be better. So I
Yeah.
can kind of see that. I can't really pull any examples for that song. It's like another one of those ones that sits there in my brain and it's like trying to make the connection, but it just can't quite.
Yeah. I like that you mentioned the bullying thing though, because Catherine was like, this girl is living a really good life and I want to destroy her. I will
Really,
take
that's what Catherine's whole issue was, is she had the life she wanted. She had the family that cared about her, where Catherine's family, ripped her baby away from her arms the second she had her and never got let her have that.
Mhm.
And then how dare she take the Salvatore brothers too? You have my face. You have this loving family, even though she lost her parents, she still had Jenna and the brother and just jealousy.
Yeah.
So speaking about vampires, one of the shows I'm going to do a rewatch of the first season and then do a continue watching the later seasons, and I'm going to introduce you to in a
Yes.
later episode is The Discovery of Witches.
Hmm.
And I feel like the song The Alchemy is so perfect for the main relationship in that show, Matthew and Diana,
Hmm.
because without getting into too many spoilers, because you are going to watch the show,
Yes.
Diana is a historian who focuses in the history of alchemy, and then she's a witch, and her love interest is a vampire, and it's like a forbidden love situation. And they have this really strong connection. So, who are they to fight the alchemy?
Who are they to fight the alchemy? You know what I put for the alchemy? Because I just couldn't think of anything to save my life, and I just wanted a variety of phantoms. I put Liu Kang and Katana from from Mortal Kombat. She just was like, I mean, there was a competition where someone won something and they just had chemistry. There were vibes. They connected. Who were they to fight the Alchemy?
What would you think of Thank You, Amy being Melina and Katana?
I like that.
I love Melina and Katana, especially
Me
in
too.
what is it, Mortal Kombat Legacy? I like loved watching that. Melina and Katana were my favorite two episodes, and I feel like that could kind of fit a little.
Yeah, that one's pretty good. I
More
like
from
that.
Melina's point of view because she literally wouldn't exist without Katana.
That's true. I can see it both ways because Katana views her as a monster, like this abomination that should not exist. She's like, "Why did you make this? You cloned me and made it a monster for your own selfish whims? Like this is messed up." And then Emelina just wants to be a family, but she's also messed up. So
I always liked Melina better because I always wanted to use the size.
I always play as her in the games. I always play as Melina in the newest one, Mortal Kombat 1. Taking it back to the vampire topic.
Yes.
Take it back. I feel like for the song Down Bad, I think we both agreed that it really fits Bella Swan from Twilight because she is indeed down bad.
I totally agree. Just the way that they both handle the breakup, everything that goes on down there. He breaks up with her. She curls up into the fetal position in the woods and like spends the night in the woods. People are literally leading a search party looking for her. She didn't go home and cry in her bed. She just plopped down in the woods and stayed there for hours until somebody found her.
That is an extreme.
It is. But I mean, I feel like you can see it from Edward's perspective too, because they're both pretty intense in their feelings for the breakup because, Alice has visions and she has visions of Bella continuously putting herself in danger. And in one, she sees Bella jump off a cliff into the water, and so she thinks, "Oh, Bella killed herself." And in her visions, she can't see the wolf shifters, and Jacob jumps in and saves her. And she wasn't jumping in to kill herself, she was jumping in for an adrenaline rush because she had this weird thing where every time she did something that was an adrenaline rush, she could see Edward, like spiritually or something. So she was cliff jumping to that end, and Jacob jumped in and saved her, but Alice couldn't see Jacob because he's Jacob. And I don't remember if she told Edward or if he just knew because he can read people's minds. So he went to the Volturi and was like, "Kill me." And they were like, "No." So then there's Edward going to take his shirt off in the middle of a crowded plaza to, do the disco ball of vampires and
Ugh,
just expose vampires to the whole world. And so then, the Volturi are like, "You can't do that. We're going to kill you."
the disco ball of vampires.
You know?
Can't we have proper vampires that burst into flames and die in the sun?
Issa, this is what the skin of a killer looks like.
Be down bad for a disco ball. You know, something I like about the way Taylor Swift writes Down Bad is it's the whole thing is this metaphor of an alien and this romance with this extraterrestrial figure, how she knew this out of this world love, and Bella Swan was in a relationship with like a supernatural figure, this paranormal thing who, when you're a teenager, you date a guy for that long, it is gonna be your insane, epic love, I guess. You'd be down bad.
Crying at the gym, crying in the woods in Bella's case, for
Because
sure.
it's pathetic.
Yeah. So then breaking into high school, I was watching some fan videos trying to get ideas for this, and I saw one that mentioned Jake and Amy from Brooklyn Nine-Nine. And I really loved that because I feel like a lot of people pair high school pairings, like characters that are actually in high school
Mhm.
during the show. And I don't feel that as much. I feel more like older characters who get into this relationship and it brings them back to that sense of like butterflies and your first love and like exciting that you feel like you're in high school again. And I mean, I kind of feel like that's where Taylor was at when she wrote the song.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I think of with the song. So I really liked seeing Jake and Amy with that because she's a very serious character, but
Mhm.
he turns her into a child. Like, even before they're dating, their like rivalry and everything, they like turn each other very well, he's already very childish, but so I really liked how the video kind of depicted them as that.
I really, really like your point about how so high school is really about you're older, but you feel younger. Like the bittersweet 16 suddenly, how she says in the song, reminds me a bit of I know you recommended me to watch this movie, The Idea of You with Selene and Hayes. Because she does feel younger. I'm reading the book right now, and there's literally a kind of graphic-ish scene in the book where she's like, I feel like I'm just doing this. This feels really high school. This feels really 90s, which the book and the movie, honestly, I'm 80% way of ways through the book and I'm already preferring the movie in a lot of ways. Regardless, I'd like to take this over to But Daddy I Love Him because I feel like that suits Selene and Hayes even more with the whole paparazzi and things like that, which is what Taylor Swift is literally writing about with that song, with the daddy meaning her fans and the public. So, The Idea of You is a story about an age gap romance between this older woman and this young man who is in a boy band. So, you can see kind of why But Daddy I Love Him fits. I think it works for both Selene and Hayes. They don't care about the outside world, they're just loving who they love. And they actually choose not to look at the outside world, which is different than what Taylor's doing in the song because she's well aware of what everyone's talking about, unlike they are. In the movie, it's easy for Selene to find out about it, but in the book, I think it takes place in like 2014 or something like that, and she's just ignorant. Like she just doesn't go online and things like that, and then things happen and she's like, "What?" That's what I have to say about that song. You're so quiet.
I know I was pulling up the lyrics actually as you were talking. So I actually really like that because if you look at the line, they slammed the door on my whole world, the one thing I wanted. And I feel like that's so Hayes because at least in the movie, he talks about how he struggled to find something that makes him happy, right? That's kind of what his journey is.
Mhm.
And he found her and she made him feel like himself. And he really loved that. And then, I mean, I liked how they made it that it wasn't that Solène couldn't handle it, it was that her daughter couldn't handle it.
Yeah, I like that a lot too, especially in the movie, because in the book, there's too much time. There's too much time. Like this relationship is a lot longer amount of time where it's just hard to suspend my disbelief that this mature woman would like I'm like young, way younger than 40. I'm gonna say I'm way younger than 40. I am way younger than 40. Okay.
You are.
I'm way younger than 40. Anyway, there's so much time in the book where I'm like, girl, you would stop this. Like you would have stopped this by now. And there's so much more connection too, because in the book the daughter is younger and is actively like engaged with this boy band. And she loves Hayes. She's like, he's my favorite. I'm in love with him. And then both of them are literally in the relationship. They're like, oh, this is gonna kill her. Oh, we gotta tell. It's like
Oh, I'm
you
glad they changed that.
you shouldn't be in this relationship if you're over here like, ah, this is gonna suck for her. You shouldn't be doing this. And it
Yeah.
hurts her so much when they actually do tell the kid. And then the kid, she's like younger, like 13 or something. And she's like, it does hurt her a lot. And it just kind of drags out. And there's months. It's like, I mean, it's hard to believe. Like, I get it. You're probably selfish enough where you're like, everyone's a little bit selfish enough where you're gonna stay. But I don't know. I don't think you'd stay that long. It's like
Does it
months.
make it makes the character less likable?
Oh, by far. Can't relate to like putting yourself that much in front of your own kid when you're that aware of it.
In the movie, the husband makes a reference to something like that, and I can remember her turning back and going, it was never Hayes. It was always whatever the other guy's name was.
Hmm.
That was her daughter's favorite.
Hmm.
So it seems like they tried to make Solène more likable in the movie. But I really liked how they went about that, where the daughter was prepared. She was going to delete all of her social media, and she was
Hmm.
like, I just want you to be happy, mom. But then she wasn't prepared for the backlash at school.
Hmm.
and she wasn't prepared for the backlash in person because she didn't think that the people that she knew were going to turn on her the way that they did. And I really liked how they handled that and they didn't make it all strangers on the internet.
Yeah, I think the movie made a lot of good changes.
Well, still on the topic of But Daddy, I Love Him,
Mm.
I really like it for Logan and Veronica from Veronica Mars
Ah.
because they get a lot of pushback for their relationship on both sides. Because Logan's the cool kid and Veronica's the outcast, the new outcast. And so his friends like give him a lot of crap when he starts dating her. And, there's a really great scene where he's like, you have a problem with Veronica, you leave. Actually, you have a problem with Veronica, you're pretty much dead to me. So just like evaporate or something. I don't know. And it's
Evaporate?
just like evaporate. Oh my God. It was great. And then like on her side, her dad doesn't really want her with Logan because Logan's the bad kid. So it's like they fight this on both sides, but they're just so, I don't know, I love their relationship because it's friends to enemies to lovers. With Logan and Veronica, it's so interesting because there's so many people who just don't want to see them together, despite how well the characters balance each other out. And it's funny because they center and steady each other, even though neither one of them is like a particularly balanced character. They're very edgy, both of them, and they both have their quirks, but somehow together they kind of just they balance each other out. And it's just kind of an interesting pairing for me. Just their chemistry and the way that they banter. I'm so excited for you to watch the show and do an episode on it later because I think you'll really enjoy the characters. There's problems with the show. There's
Mhm.
things that drive me crazy, but the characters in themselves I really liked together.
Characters are always the reason I stick around for shows. Like on Once Upon a Time, when the writing started going crazy, I was like, I'm here. I just want to see them do things. Like, I don't care anymore.
Switching into I'm Gonna Get You Back and
Mm.
kind of talking about those vibes. I really like Philo and Vignette from Carnival Row, which is set in like a fantasy version of Victorian London where mythical creatures are refugees. And it's got forbidden love and steampunk detective vibes. And, without getting into too many spoilers, because this is a show that Isa is going to be watching and we're going to be talking about in more depth in a later episode. And actually, I have not yet watched season two, but I think it really fits talking about like, if you're going to get revenge on somebody or if you want to be back in their life. I think it's such a great example of that in that, she spent all this time grieving only to find out that it was for nothing, but he is also the love of her life. And that anger and resentment that she feels, but also kind of like an underlying feeling of relief. So, yeah, like I said, can't get into too many spoilers because I don't want to ruin it for you. But I think that it'll be really fun when we talk about that episode to revisit if you think that this song fits for them.
I
Are you okay?
appreciate being not as spoilery as you could have been.
That might have seemed like a spoiler, but it happens well, they don't reunite in the first episode, but you know that he's not dead in the first episode.
Okay.
So,
So it's like a first episode. Okay.
yeah,
That's fine. And it's intriguing. So it makes me more interested.
yeah.
I am curious about that. I like the aesthetic. So for mine, for I'm Gonna Get You Back, when I listen to that song, it feels, I mean, I think the purpose is to be very on and off again. And I couldn't think of very many relationships off the top of my head that were on and off again because most of the time they are like in these TV shows and things, there is a happy ending or not, either they get together or they don't. It goes one way or the other. But in the world of comic books, where things just keep going on for decades and decades and decades, there are on and off relationships. So I was thinking of Spider-Man and Black Cat. She's a thief, one of my favorite Marvel characters. Starts off like they're enemies, but there's an attraction, and then she decides to kind of start turning a new leaf, go to the good side, and he helps her out. It never really sticks. It's later established in canon that she has actual kleptomania, so she can't really stop stealing things. And I think right now she's kind of in the middle, like anti-hero, basically. Black Cat is actually the first character that Spider-Man reveals his identity to ever. And she has a horrible reaction to it that probably traumatized Spider-Man, but she has this like really bad reaction. She loves the fantasy of Spider-Man, and so it's pretty rough the rest of the relationship moving forward. And then they break up. He marries Mary Jane, and she's away. And then she comes back in town, and it's just kind of like more of an enemies thing. And then over the decades, it's been sometimes they're kind of allies, sometimes like she's a bad person and he's still, his hero self, but they come together every now and again. And there is this time where Spider-Man is not himself. And by not himself, I mean he is dead and his body is possessed by someone else. Long story.
Is it Venom?
Um, no, it is Dr. Octopus. It is a very long story. It's actually not that long, but it's just weird. Anyway,
Twists and
so
turns.
he is like this new Spider-Man, Superior Spider-Man. That's what the line is called. He ends up like destroying their relationship basically because I think she starts coming on to him, but he's not into it at all and completely humiliates her. She is so humiliated that she turns completely over to the dark side. She starts running a gang. It's awful. So that's, I would say, another moment of I'm gonna get you backwards, like literally trying to get him back for humiliating her in like a physically vengeful, malicious way, as opposed to just like, oh, sometimes I'm gonna, like Taylor Swift says, take the upper hand and touch your body. But what really sold the song connection for me was the bridge, especially the second part. Bygones will be bygone eras, fading into gray. We broke all the pieces, but still want to play the game. I hate you, but I love you just the same. And pick your poison, babe. I'm poison either way. And other lines too, really, if I'm being honest.
Whether I'm gonna flip you off or pull you into the closet, I haven't decided yet.
That is basically their relationship. It's very back and forth. They were together most recently a year ago or so, and it was good, and I was happy because they both been through a lot of character development to where I felt like they could actually enjoy each other as they are because she loves him wholly as who he is, and kind of vice versa. He's in a weird Spider-Man comics are not in a good place, and they haven't been for a very long time. But she's doing great, and that's all I really care about. But they're very, I'm gonna get you back on and off, and I'm excited to see her adapted to the big screen eventually. Speaking of women who tend to destroy lives, moving on to the Albatross. So for mine, I wrote Circe. Circe from Greek mythology, Circe from the book Circe by Madeline Miller. In that, we get a more like in-depth view of her mind. I really want you to read that at some point, Ava. It's kind of both on how others view her as like this thing that comes and destroys them. You know, the myth how she like turns the sailors into pigs, blah 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 blah. She's a witch, but also kind of how she views herself as if she's something that never ends up getting happiness. Everything she touches is destroyed. And now that's a bit of a stretch considering the way Taylor writes the song, but I think it all kind of rounds out.
For me, the only thing that I can think of when I hear the word albatross is River from Firefly and Serenity,
Hmm.
because in Serenity, when the operative is coming for River and Mal meets the operative where Anara's staying, the operative is like, she's an albatross. And Mal goes, he says something along the lines of, the way I remember it, the
Mhm.
albatross was supposed to be good luck until some stupid sailor shot it. In the last scene of the movie, he refers to her as Little Albatross. And so that is the only connotation that I have with that word. Anytime I hear that word, I'm automatically like, river, river. So that's kind of what this song makes me think of.
I
Like,
like
locked me up in a tower, but I'd visit you in your dreams. And they tried to warn you about me. And I mean, river.
I like it.
Let's talk about some badass girls for Who's Afraid of Little Old Me.
I need to talk about Jean Grey. Personally, when I hear Who's Afraid of Little Old Me, I like to think of these strong, badass characters, right? And I feel like Jean Grey is a really good example of that. Plenty of Marvel characters are like that. Let's be real. the women are extremely powerful in the Marvel universe, whether it's the MCU or the comic books, which is where I'm drawing this from. I feel like Who's Afraid of Little Old Me kind of expresses both this great power and strength that someone can have, as well as frustration and pain. So Jean Grey, like she's most notably known for becoming the Phoenix and the whole Dark Phoenix saga situation. That whole thing starts off with this guy. I mean, the Dark Phoenix stuff happens because of this manipulation by this mutant called Mastermind, where he implants all these memories in her that kind of make her go crazy. So, that line in Who's Afraid, you called me crazy, like to be literal about it. Her emotions and everything get really manipulated, and she has this destructive potential because when she first gets the Phoenix, she's not evil. We see the X-Men movies, they're like, oh no, the Phoenix is here. She is like destructive and powerful and evil now. But in the comic books, it's a good thing. And we also see this in the X-Men cartoon in the 90s, like that cartoon that portrays the Dark Phoenix saga and the Phoenix saga. Everyone forgets the Phoenix saga. It's a good thing at first because she's this force for life and she protects people and she uses that immense power for good. Then she starts getting emotionally manipulated and she becomes the Dark Phoenix, and she's basically mad with power because you know what women do when they have too much power in a comic book.
In a comic book, in any iteration of media.
In any iteration, you give a woman too much power. Oh no, not the woman with power.
Oh my God, that's a line. That's a line from Smells Like Teen Spirit by Nirvana. She's overboard and self-assured. Oh no, I know, a dirty word. Because God forbid a woman be self-assured. That's what that made me think of.
I mean, we're talking songs here.
Yeah.
She has all this power and she has all this pain. She's always trying to do the right thing at the end of the day. Like she was one of the first X-Men, one of the original X-Men, and she still carries this like weight.
I've never read the comic books, but I do agree because in the original movie trilogy, they have the line, because you lured me and you hurt me and you taught me and you caged me and then you called me crazy. I am what I am because you trained me. And Professor X literally makes a cage in her brain because she's so powerful that he doesn't feel like anybody can control her. And I mean, really, that's what goes wrong in X3. Is that what it's called?
Yeah, X3 last year.
That's what goes wrong there is the cage breaks and then she feels so manipulated and just completely overrun with all these emotions and her power that she was never taught to control because he thought he knew better. And she struggles in those movies with her power. She doesn't feel powerful. She doesn't feel strong.
And she is though, like that's kind of where that arc goes of she's been this powerful mutant this whole time. And in the comic books, it's also expressed that she is an Omega level mutant. I think she's Omega level. She has both telepathy and telekinesis, and I think it's telepath that she's Omega. After the Phoenix left, after the whole Dark Phoenix thing happened, she had to deal with like a lot of backlash and kind of being seen as this destructive and dangerous figure. After she had this mar on her in Who's Afraid of Little Me, the scandal was contained. The bullet has just grazed at all costs. Keep your good name. You don't get to tell me you feel bad. It's like I went through all this and people are just trying to either look at me like I'm a monster or try to bury the hatchet and act like I never did it. And she even acts like she never did it. She'll be like, oh, that was Phoenix. That wasn't me. But ultimately, she does own up to it. There is one last line I would like to say from Who's Afraid of Little Me that is kind of a joke, but you know how the chorus starts. So I leap from the gallows and I levitate down your street. I think this fits perfectly for Jean Grey because Jean's always dying.
I was actually thinking about the line that I'll sue you if you step on my lawn and that I'm fearsome and I'm wretched and I'm wrong
Mm.
when you were talking about how everybody portrays her after the whole Dark Phoenix thing.
Yeah, then you walk on eggshells. But she's
Yeah.
still powerful even without the Phoenix, and that's what I think is really cool that she's like, I am something to be feared, and she still strives for right every time, even though she can sometimes be a bitch, but in a normal way.
Yeah, we all.
Yeah.
I have a lot of different people for this song because it's personally the type of media that I like to consume the most. I've seen a lot of people comparing it to Aelin from Throne of Glass, which Issa's going to read for the first time for one of our later episodes. And then also Mia from the Arrowverse, Mia Smoke on the CW. I just love women who can kick ass. Another character that I have on my list of who's afraid of little old me, Max from Dark Angel, who famously says, "Girls kick ass," says so on a t-shirt.
That kind of reminds me a little bit of the main character in this book called A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. I wrote this for Cassandra, actually. Her name is like Pippa Fitzamobi. It's like a very strange name. Everyone's calling this little girl crazy, delusional for trying to make this little school project of hers about this murder that happened a few years ago, and she's trying to clear the name of the person who was blamed for the murder because she doesn't think that he committed the murder. I don't know, that connected to me a bit with Cassandra. Aside from, of course, the myth, like, what are we gonna do? Some of these are just quick, simple, easy things. Like, let's say we move on to the bolter. The bolter just makes me think of Amy March from Little Women because of the fell through the ice line.
Yeah.
What are we gonna do?
Yeah, analyzing music is not a strong suit of mine.
I mean, do you even have anything for the bolter? Like, or
Same
Cassandra?
thing as you.
Yeah. I
Just,
mean, sometimes it's like that.
yeah.
This is the task we've given ourselves, but we're having fun.
What about the smallest man who ever lived? Do you have something for
Okay.
that one?
I do. So this fit perfectly. Give me a second.
I'm ready. Waited with bated breath.
Okay, so this one, I was thinking of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which is a Marvel TV show based around the secret organization S.H.I.E.L.D., spy show. Got kicked off the MCU canon, but it ended very well. It had a very, very good ending in general and a happy ending, which I know you like, Ava, so
Life's too sad to read stuff with no happy ending.
should put that on a shirt. I feel like the song, The Smallest Man Who Ever Lived, fit with these two characters, Daisy, or Sky, whatever you want to call her, and Grant Ward, or just Ward. They're on the same team, and they get together right around when it's revealed that Ward works for Hydra, the bad guys. And the song, well, it fits so well. It's ridiculous. It's almost word for word, and it's kind of silly. Like Sleeper Cell Spy. It's silly. Like it was just like it connected so well, not just for the word for word thing, but like here's this person who thinks he is doing the right thing by being a part of basically a neo-Nazi organization. And he's always been told by others what to do. He's never really had a mind of his own. And when he does, when he loses the people that tell him what to do and the people that ground him all around his life and all that, Grant Ward kind of loses his way like a lot. And he's like very petty and the smallest man who ever lived. Just
Yeah,
tie it all back together.
I feel that.
And I feel like it ultimately connects with Grant more than Daisy, but I would say it's for definitely in her voice. We can also put a little bit of this whole Grant Ward thing into My Boy Only Breaks His Favorite Toys, and I'm going to take this really literally. He accidentally kills his girlfriend, and it's kind of funny. Like, it's not a funny scene. It's just like, I mean, he didn't think it was her because this is like later. So this is after he descends, basically. But yeah, he killed his toy. He broke his toy. Speaking of like dying and toys and women and relationships.
The way you just said toys and women.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. I take it all back. Speaking of My Boy Only Breaks, I mean, that's what Taylor's doing in the song.
Oh no, I know.
Taylor
It
is
was just,
referring to
I didn't say it
herself.
was bad. It was funny. Toys
Taylor
and
is
women.
referring to herself. Toys and women. Potato, potato. Taylor's referring to herself as a toy. And you know who else broke his favorite toy? Anakin.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, she died.
She died real bad.
Padme just couldn't go on.
Nope.
She lost the will to live. It's literally why she died.
Which is so sad. She had two babies that she needed to live for.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm queen of sandcastles he destroys. That's kind of funny because she was the queen. So the next song that we have on our list is The Black Dog, and we were waiting for you to catch up on season 3 of Bridgerton to talk about Eloise and Penelope and their friendship.
We're doing it anyway. We are talking about it. I don't really get these vibes as much. And really, even though she, like, Eloise has disdain for Penelope the entire third season so far. I like the idea of this song fitting them. I just keep thinking about the last line, like, I hope it's shitty and the black dog, like the pettiness. Because Eloise is like, you kept this from me. I was running around trying to find who Lady Whistledown was, and you've been here humoring me this whole time, and it totally broke my trust, and fuck you.
I mean, not only that, but the fact that she wrote what she wrote about Eloise.
Yes.
Like, I understand on some level why Penn did it. The queen thought that Eloise was Lady Whistledown and she was going to come for her, I believe, if I
Mhm.
remember season 2 correctly.
Yes.
That's harsh.
Yeah. And by season 3, Eloise is hanging out with Cressida, and she's like, I don't care if like things don't work out for you as much until more towards the end where the whole whistle down thing gets up in the air.
It's not necessarily only towards the end, because if you think about it, whenever Cressida starts talking to what's his face? What is his name?
Debling?
Yeah. And Eloise is like, wasn't he seen talking quite closely with Penn or
Hmm.
Penelope? And, she's kind of skirting this line of being angry at her best friend, but it's still her best friend. And I mean, really, I think Eloise and Penelope are the closest relationship in the Bridgerton universe. They're closer than any of the siblings. They're closer than any of the romantic relationships, I think, in terms of truly knowing a person. And I think that's why it hurt Eloise so much, is that they are soulmates in a way.
I really appreciate you saying that. And I'm sure people like actually ship them romantically, but I really like a strong female friendship presented like that.
The other thing that's really funny and I wanted to mention is thinking about comparing them to the black dog. I I really think that for the most part it's from Eloise's point of view, but for some reason whenever I think of them and I hear the line I hope it's shitty in the black dog, all I think of is I hope your friendship with Cressida is shitty. That is all that I think of.
I really want to talk about I Can Do It with a Broken Heart because I feel like this could be many, 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 many characters. Like I wrote on my notes, it literally just says all the girlies ever. So like I wrote Buffy, I wrote Regina Mills from Once Upon a Time, Madeline Pryor, Jean Grey's clone. She literally is abandoned by her husband, which is Cyclops, Scott Summers. He leaves her and their son, their like newborn son. He leaves her because like, oh, Jean Grey's alive. And he goes, and she's just like there with the kid, and she has this whole evil arc, and it's a mess, but like that girl could do it with a broken heart, and she only recently in the recent years finally got a redemption, and this thing happened in like the 80s.
I was just reading something about their kid because I was reading about Marvel characters who can travel in time,
Oh,
which their kid is one of them, I believe.
yeah, he like it's they threw him in a portal so he can like be safe in the future, and he comes back and he's Cable. Madeline Pryor's and Scott Summers' kid. And it's a mess too, like she doesn't get to experience her child growing up. Ugh.
Doesn't
Anyway.
isn't the future he grows up in horrible?
Yeah, it's rough.
I was
Future
reading about a
sucks.
lot of different characters, but I
Fu-
do remember the Jean Grey clone thing. Justice for clones, man.
Oh my God. Yeah, Justice for Clones. What do you have for I Can Do It with a Broken Heart?
So actually for I Can Do It with a Broken Heart, I jump back to Rookie Blue and I have Andy again because all of her relationships are with these men that she works with. And she has to suck it up and go back to work with them and pretend like she's not like going through hell working with her ex all day while people's lives depend on her because she's a police officer. And I mean, spoiler alerts, she literally has to go to work with her ex-fiance who cheated on her with his ex who she also works with. And so she has to sit there and see them and deal with that. And like everybody's like talking about, the wedding, and she has to confront that and deal with that and continue to police while she deals with all that. So she can do it with a broken heart.
Something I noticed, Ava sent me some clips about the show. She's confronting her ex, and she really puts her foot down about like everyone at the station is asking about us and expecting us to get married and when the wedding is happening, but I'm not going to make a fool of myself by actually expressing what really happened. And you better play along too, because it's the least you could do for me. She's not taking any shit.
I really liked that scene because she asked him if he's like told anybody anything, and he's like, I don't know what we're doing. I don't know what the story is. And she goes, you cheated on me. That's the story. The problem with the story is I don't like it. And I'm like, bitch, yes.
I like that. I've applauded for a cop.
Yeah. Well, and then I really like the scene where I didn't send you this one, but Sam, who's like her other love interest in the show, like calls her out and he's like, why are you still sticking up for a guy who put a ring on your finger and then cheated on you? And she's like, how do you know that? And he's like, anybody that knows you can look at you and know that.
I also notice people doing like if you go on TikTok or whatever, I can do it with a broken heart, Wanda Maximoff, Scarlet Witch thing. That's what I get on my TikTok feed, just a lot of Marvel stuff. I don't know about you.
That's been my YouTube feed lately because I'm like in a Marvel phase right now.
Always in a Marvel phase. But anyway, I really feel like Wanda Maximoff fit I Hate It Here in WandaVision is like, nothing about real life is okay. I am sad. Here is my made up world that my sadness, my grief created. That's I Hate It Here. Like what the lyrics kind of say. Secret gardens in my mind. People need a key to get to. The only one is mine.
I
Um,
really like that.
I really like the song. I know I was getting a lot of flack because of that one line, but like,
Yeah.
media literacy is going downhill.
I like it for the Scarlet Witch. I feel like that does fit well.
I also feel like it fits Wanda Maximoff in the comic books as well because in a more crazy, extreme version of WandaVision, she kind of changes the whole world and alters everyone's memories, and it's this big thing, House of M. So she like changes everything to where everyone's ideal lives come true, and so everyone's quote unquote happy. Yeah, that's what I got for I Hate It Here. And I was also kind of thinking, just so I can get a different piece of media, there's only so much we can do here. And we're not music analyzers, and we have so many more fandoms and TV shows and books and things we want to discover. It's limited. It's limited. And this isn't even everything. So, but I decided maybe Anne with an E, a really good Netflix show that is about an orphan girl like gets adopted. Anne is, she's a child, and so she runs off and she hides away in her little like her tree fort thing that she makes whenever she's upset, and so she goes off from there. I hate it here.
The little fort, and she goes with her two friends.
Yes.
I can see where you're coming from, but also it's the most at home she's ever felt in her life. It's the like
Mm.
first time she's really had a family. Wasn't she cleaning and raising kids for the families that had taken her in before that?
Yeah, yeah, you're
Pretty
right for
much.
Anne.
Yeah, they were just getting like money from the government for taking care of her, but really she was doing chores and was like a live-in maid.
Yeah.
So I do see it, but also I don't know, I might be going too literal with it.
No, I like it. Even though we're not necessarily song aficionado analyzer people, it's all a perspective.
And in my fantasies, I rise above it, and way up there, I actually love it.
From there, I would like to move on to Peter. I remember when I first saw this song when I was listening to the album and I saw that name Peter, I was like, I know this is going to be a Peter Pan reference because I know Taylor Swift is a Peter Pan girly. And lo and behold, it was. For this one, I wrote Clark from The 100. The 100 is this dystopian show about 100 delinquents who've lived in space their whole lives, and they're basically being used as guinea pigs to test if Earth is safe to live on after this nuclear war that destroyed it a bunch of years ago. And Clark is our protagonist. And I feel like she fits the song Peter. Specifically when she's waiting for the people in space to come back and she's alone. So this is between season 4 and 5. She's waiting for them and they take a lot longer than planned. to come back because it's supposed to be 5 years. I think they take like 6.5. And by then she's kind of given up and she's found a new family and this little girl. It just makes me think of the very, like, you can think of it from the very first lyric of the song of her, saying, "Forgive me, Peter, my lost fear's leader." Clark is a leader. She is the other half of it. The other half would be Bellamy, the male protagonist, and he's pretty close to Clark. He's up in space with the rest of the little group that goes up there between those two seasons. Because guess what? There's another nuclear problem. So I guess you could just say Clark and Bellamy. Are you smiling because of your cat?
Yeah.
Ava's cat's name is Bellamy and is a good name. Named after the 100, right?
Yeah, he was named
Yes.
after Bellamy Blake. I used to call him Bellamy Blake.
But I also think like the song kind of flips between both of them. You put both of them like life was always easier on you than it was on me. Like it was definitely easier on Clark than it was on Bellamy because Clark had a higher status on the Ark in space when they were all living up there before they went to Earth. Because Bellamy was in a worse position. I mean, all the people, Clark was like the best, like the most privileged of the group. All the people that went up there in space at the end of season 4 were significantly less privileged than.
Question for you.
Mm.
What do you think about this song? And this is just me throwing it out there, not anywhere near as knowledgeable as you on the topic. But what do you think about this song in terms of Tony and Pepper?
In what way? Who's speaking?
Pepper. I mean, not towards the end, but like thinking about him needing to grow up.
Mm. You said you were gonna grow up, then you were gonna come find me. I like that. I can see that during the part in their relationship where it's like a little earlier, obviously, like before
Mhm.
they have Morgan and all that. I like that because it's the immaturity thing. Whereas if you were to swing that back to the 100 with Bellamy and Clark, it's a little more literal because it's like I'm waiting years for you to come back.
Yeah.
But I like that. I like I mean, that's what it is in the song. It is about maturity.
That was really the only thing that I could think of, and I was just thinking about it reading the lyrics. It's not, this is another, I mean, I do like this song, but it doesn't push my brain anywhere.
I love this song. It's honestly my favorite, along with Florida. I'm a little biased because of the Peter Pan metaphor, but it's very folklore vibes. Like I can imagine it on my vinyl, like spinning, and I would expect that song and it would make sense.
Mine has still been Who's Afraid of Little Old Me is the one that I listen to the most.
Mhm.
I like I Can Do It With a Broken Heart, and I listen to that one a lot, but Who's Afraid of Little Old Me is like my jam.
So on the MCU, I wanted to bring up Clara because I really felt like that song fit with Spider-Man, like the MCU Spider-Man specifically. Because he's literally, especially in Far From Home, where it's like, are you going to be the next Iron Man? Like, he feels like he needs to take on this mantle. And Clarabelle is all about starlets replacing each other in the music industry, basically. And they kind of start treating superheroes like that in the MCU once one of the big ones dies.
I can see that. Same thing, you could say the same thing for the Falcon and Captain America and the Winter Soldier and Captain America.
Yeah, all these characters that are replacing each other.
Yeah.
I want to discuss the prophecy. So I mentioned Cersei earlier, and I kind of feel like she connects, but I mentioned her for Cassandra. I was thinking about like characters that really, really desperately wanted romance. Taylor Swift is writing this song as a 30-something-year-old, being like, I've had all these boyfriends and it hasn't worked out. And you can't look at someone in their early 20s who's like, oh, my life is over. I'm going to be alone forever and like find that believable unless you're their age or younger. So I kept thinking of someone who like maybe has a different perspective. Cersei lives centuries. In the book by Madeline Miller, she's struggling in general to find someone. And something I enjoyed about it was that she does get like a happy ending and does end up finding someone. But taking it back to the kind of Vampire Diaries, you're making me laugh with your hand motions. Okay. Back to the Vampire Diaries universe, the prophecy kind of reminded me a bit of Haley Marshall from, I mean, she does show up in the Vampire Diaries, she's introduced in the Vampire Diaries, but she's a character in the originals. And like she is a younger character, early 20s type, late teens kind of character, but she is abandoned by her family her whole life. She doesn't know who her parents are. And then just kind of keeps going like that. Like she'll get these long lasting commitments. She gets married in the show at one point. She does it because of her wolf pack. She's a werewolf. And she likes this ability, even though she's not necessarily in love with the person she marries. She wants this community, she wants people around her. And I feel like if we were to expand on the theme of the prophecy, the song, how Haley has this role as alpha in her pack and she has people around her, but she doesn't want, like how Taylor Swift says, she doesn't want money. Like she doesn't want this, like, she doesn't necessarily want to be like in charge. I mean, she takes on the mantle because she has people, which is what she really wants. She wants people, she wants consistency, she wants family. And the originals, that show is all about family, even though she's not with the person she actually loves, which is Elijah. But even when that does work out between them, it's still with the person she loves, it still doesn't end necessarily well. And so here's this person who's begging and begging and begging for family, and she's put on this pedestal, not just like from the beginning of the show in the original, she's put on this pedestal because she's carrying Klaus's child, but then it's also like, oh, you're also the alpha of this like special line of werewolves, and you're the only one who could save us. That's not her character want. That's not the thing that she really, really wants deep down. It's family and connection, and she loses it again and again and again. But because of that family, because she wants it so much, she wants to secure it so much, she ends up sacrificing herself instead. That's off the deep end, I guess, of just how desperately she wanted something to work out for her. But the only way it did was when she wasn't even there. That was very tragic.
That is sad.
So, a character that I felt like fit for the song Robin was Hope from the originals, Klaus's and Haley's daughter. I mean, the whole song is really about having a kid, or not having a kid, but, well, I guess having a kid, a child. And there is a child, and you are keeping their whimsy alive through, I mean, the song says sweetness.
I don't even think I've listened to the song more than like twice.
No, it's not my favorite of the album, I'll be real.
It's the line "Way to go, Tiger."
Way to go, tiger.
It's just not my favorite song on the album. It's one of those ones that like maybe a year from now I'll listen to it and I'll really like it,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm so hung up on the songs that I like that I
Mm-hmm.
listen to them over and over again and I don't really give other songs a chance
I feel.
until that dopamine hit goes away. And then I'm like, oh, okay, let's find a new song.
I think it's the song I listen to the least. And, or maybe it's not, but I can tell, I know that I like other songs more than this one. Honestly, I think I like all the songs more than this one. But it's just back to the character thing. I think it especially connects really well with Hope and trying to keep that whimsy alive, that childhood innocence, because Hope is the daughter of a 1,000-year-old mass murderer. So you gotta tread carefully there when you're trying to keep that kind of innocence alive with those kinds of circumstances. And it's not just him, it's his whole family and even her mom. It's a rough situation, to put simply, but that's why we love fiction.
In fiction, you can like these horrible people that you would stay
Yes,
so far away from in real life.
you can like them and not condone them because we are media literate like that, or at least trying to be. That's what I got for Robin. I also was thinking of other children like Henry from Once Upon a Time, but he keeps his whimsy alive pretty well on his own. And I think he's actually part of the reason why he has more whimsy than he does, because I think he's the one who finds the storybook and starts the whole journey. So I don't think he fits as much as Hope does, where it's like, we have to shield this child from all the enemies and all the horrors that is our family. But I like how the song Robin conveys devotion to this child, I think Taylor's kind of referring to herself and how adults viewed her as a kid, but the lines that connected to me for Hope and her family were the ones referring to a legacy and being bloodthirsty and aiming high.
You haven't watched the original Charmed, right?
No, I haven't.
There's a character, and like I said, I haven't listened to this song so much, so I don't really have the meaning in my head, but listening to you talk about what it meant kind of made me think about Wyatt from Charmed in terms of like trying to protect this child from these outside forces. This is in like later seasons. They get informed that Wyatt turns evil in the future. And so they spend his childhood, well, his very young infanthood, trying to figure out how that happens and who turns him evil. And they're trying to protect him
Mm-hmm.
and figure out what that would look like. So that's kind of where my mind went when you were talking.
I like that. I think it connects. I like it. You know, one of the songs that I was really struggling with was Chloe or Sam or Sophia or Marcus. The mouthful of a song. I honestly, I wasn't thinking about much. I heard someone say that it connects really well to the Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, and I've had that book on my like to be read list for ages and just haven't read it yet. I still want to read it. I did see though someone made a TikTok of Chloe or Sam or Sophia or Marcus with Stefan and Elena.
I do like that too because you needed me, but you needed drugs more. He
Yes.
goes on his bender. Because I mean,
Mm-hmm.
metaphor for addiction. I changed into goddesses, villains, and fools. Goddesses, like he put her on this pedestal of he was going through too much and he couldn't be with her.
Mm-hmm.
Villains, because she moved on and fell in love with Damon. And
Fools because she was so stupid for going to be with Damon. How could you be with a guy like that?
oh, and when they were all like, you don't really love him, it's just the sire bond. I was so mad when they tried that plot twist out. I was like, no,
Dude.
can't they just be together? I've been waiting for this for 3 years. Just stop.
Yeah.
I like how they show Stefan's reactions too. I know that that sounds like horrible because I'm asking to see the pain on this character's face, but
No, no. They
it makes
need
it more real.
Paul Wesley needed a fully rounded resume. He needed to act completely. No more just crying. He needed to be angry.
Yeah.
And of course, that relationship ended. How did it end, you say? We're moving on. We are moving on to the
I,
song. How did it end, dear viewers? Listeners? Dear listeners?
dearest readers, is that where you were going from with that?
My brain is, I need to finish this show.
There's like stuff I'm
Oh,
dying
show.
to talk to you about season 3 of Bridgerton, so I'm very excited for you to finish the show because
Okay.
I have some opinions.
I'm sure I'll have opinions too. And you, fellow listener,
Gentle
gentle listener,
listener.
you can listen to all of our opinions when our Bridgerton episode comes out. So, the song, how did it end? I was trying to get Bridge out with fandoms for mine. I don't know about you, but this could really go for any relationship that doesn't last. I really wanted to squeeze in one of my favorite ships, which is the Punisher, Karen Page, and Frank Castle, the Punisher. In The Punisher, in the TV show that was originally a Netflix show, but now you can watch it on Disney Plus, I'm kind of going a little bit meta with how did it end because none of those Netflix shows were supposed to end necessarily, but that was when the Disney started getting back all their rights, and so they, with Marvel, and so a lot of shows just kind of peter off and ended. And Karen Page was a character in the Daredevil Netflix show, and the Punisher is introduced in the second season, and they had a connection in that second season. The actors had so much chemistry that to this day they're like, I would love to act with her. I would love to act with him just in anything, like just put us together. And it was because of just the way the actors interacted with each other with as their characters in that second season of Daredevil that they brought Karen over to the Punisher TV show. At least in the first season. In the second season, they were filming Daredevil season 3 at the same time, so she wasn't really there. Point being, they never exactly get together or anything. They just like have a lot of chemistry and build off of that, and you know that they have a connection. And it just kind of peters off and ends because the shows couldn't be streaming. They couldn't exist anymore exactly. Just going a bit meta, I feel like it's kind of the fans being like, we had so much hope and now it's over. So silly, goofy mood for a very depressing song.
I didn't have anything for this one.
Yeah, it's just,
This song is hard for me to listen to.
it is a song about someone who's like, you were someone that was going to be here for the rest of my life, and now you're not, and now this is my life without this relationship, and we can even transition this over. It's like loss of my life.
Yeah.
So who did you have for loss of my life?
So I actually have Forever My Girl. It's this movie. I don't think it's actually a Hallmark movie, but it's on that same kind of lines. This guy who thought he wanted his life to go in a different direction and essentially left the love of his life at the altar and then completely put his past behind him, ignored everybody that he knew, went on to become a famous country singer. So he has this phone, and it's like this ancient flip phone, and the phone broke. He had to get it fixed, and he was all panicked and just freaking out. So they finally get it fixed, and then he listens to it, and it's a voicemail from this girl. And he listens to it every single day.
The loss of his life.
The loss of his life. And then, that's just the beginning of the movie. There's the whole continuation of the movie, but that's what the song makes me think of. And I mean, also from her perspective, too, because you said I was the love of your life 1,000 times. They were about to get married, and then
Mm.
boom, he's gone.
He needed to fix his phone, but he couldn't fix himself. Moving on.
To I can fix him. No, really, I can.
This song is funny. Like it sounds like something that came right off of Evermore, but like I just love the end just being like, "Oh no, I can't.
Yeah.
Forget it. I
I
cannot
really
fix him." Like I was saying, it does sound like something from Evermore, and like it reminds me of Cowboy Like Me. And oddly enough, the characters that I chose for this are also characters that would fit with Cowboy Like Me, which is Kaz and Inej from Six of Crows, or as you know them, Ava, from Shadow and Bone, because you have yet to read the books. But I feel like I could fix them, or really I can't fix with them because like Inej is kind of like she's the light to his darkness, put simply, very simply, I guess, because she's also not necessarily a good person. She's pretty gray, just like him, but he's definitely worse. And at the beginning of their relationship, she's definitely more like not even in like a romantic way, but in general, just like I can sway him to be a better person, show him a more optimistic perspective on life. She'll bring it up in conversation. She's the more optimistic one. She's religious, like all these things about her that are more girl next door, but make her an assassin. That's basically an ish.
I really like that description.
Yeah, and then Kaz is a mess. He's just a sad boy who kills people, which aren't all the best ones
In fiction.
in fiction. Do you have anything for I Can Fix Him? Because honestly, that could be any morally gray character.
The one that I had, it doesn't fit perfectly, but Mark and Lexi from Grey's Anatomy,
All
because,
right.
he's this like character who just like runs around, and even when he says he's in love with somebody, he's not able to commit to them, and he's just like has all these issues, and then he meets Lexi,
Mhm.
and it's funny because she's not even actually trying to fix him, but he just falls in love with her and becomes this better person. He's actually more immature than her, despite the age gap and him being a lot older than her. Her
Typical.
presence in his life helps him mature so quickly that then he like is ready for all these things that she's not ready for. And he keeps pushing her for them, and then their relationship is just strained. And so that's kind of what it made me think of. But it's not a very good fit. It just was like a thought that popped into my head.
Hmm. I respect all thoughts.
I respect your opinion.
We are really deep into this song analyzing that is actually just an excuse to talk about the characters we love. I'm starting to sense. But Fortnight, the very first song on the album, as we are very deep into this. This one was a little tricky for me because you could think of Fortnight as a metaphor where it's like a long time, but in the grand scheme of your life, it's a short amount of time. Or you can think of it literally, where it was a brief relationship. I was thinking of Once Upon a Time a little bit, like maybe Emma and Neil, how they're together briefly, and he gets very kind of possessive and jealous because, I mean, Emma has this kid. And, you know, they dated when she was 18, the whole thing. But then I was also thinking about in the TV show Angel, a show that spins off from Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the title character Angel being a vampire who's unique because he has a soul. And I figured this song, Fortnight, could work for Wesley and Lila. Wesley being someone who works with Angel, and Lila, who's a more antagonistic character. They get together during a pretty dark time in Wesley's life. And this could be through Lila's perspective, where she's frustrated that he is so fixated on another woman. Like how Taylor describes resentment over her ex-lover in the song Fortnight by depicting how much she wants to kill her ex's wife because they're living a better life together. And how these feelings they have hurt them, like on the inside. It is toxic for them to be pining and engaging in something that is only damaging themselves. And that's kind of what we get with Emma and Neil, how Emma's like kind of moving on at this point in her life.
Yeah, I can see that. The only thing I had for Fortnite was Sam and Andy from Rookie Blue again because they're interested in each other, but nothing happens and then they go on to other partners and they're still kind of like revolving around each other. They get together and then they break up and then they're with other people and they're still revolving around each other and like your wife waters flowers, I want to kill her.
Mm-hmm.
Like just like seeing somebody with their partner and like there's nothing necessarily wrong with their partner, but because they're their partner, you have a certain feeling towards them, that kind of thing. And I think that really kind of pulls out in their relationship as the seasons go on because even when they're not together, you feel them
Hmm.
throughout the entirety of the show. Despite the fact that they're not together as a couple all the time, you always feel their chemistry.
I would like to move on to Florida. It's definitely, as I
One
said,
hell of a drug.
it's one hell. It is Florida is basically to put the what it's about simply is it's basically a coping mechanism, the song. So Taylor refers it to a place, like whether she means it literally or not. So I just thought, like, when have I seen characters just like really go through it, and having a rough time? And so I thought of season 6 of Buffy the Vampire Slayer because that a season is just so it's rough in an emotional way, like it's heavy. And so I thought of both Willow, Buffy's friend who becomes a witch, and Buffy from that season because Willow literally has her metaphorical drug with magic. So that's her coping mechanism. That's her Florida. And then we have Buffy, and hers is Spike, basically.
Definitely Spike.
I get that he's evil, but he goes from enemy to ally to, coping mechanism. At least at this part in the show. And in the song Florida, there's that vibe of depression, the lines like, love left me like this, I don't want to exist. And there's a line, like, I feel like it really connects with Buffy specifically because there's a line that says, tell me I'm despicable, say it's unforgivable. That's literally the scene where she's telling Tara about it. She's just begging her to tell her that she did something wrong.
That scene was heartbreaking.
It is. It is heartbreaking. But I feel like Buffy in that season really connects in that song. It fucked me up, Florida. Don't laugh!
I was laughing because you said fuck me up Florida, and then I thought of like when they beat each other up before they hook up. That was where my brain went when you said that. I wasn't laughing at what you were thinking. I laughed because as soon as you said it, I saw when she like punches him and then they start, their whole scene with the house falling down.
That scene is a mess.
Yeah, it is.
I would like to move on to the title track, The Tortured Poets Department. I don't know about you, but it was hard to brainstorm a character for this song because I would search it to get ideas and it would just give me the whole album instead of the song.
Same.
I ended up thinking maybe this would fit really well with Buffy and Angel, and it works with both their voices, I think, because I feel like there's some arrogance in this song. The whole like who's gonna know you line that Taylor keeps repeating, and it's all about feeling this one of a kind connection and thinking that that person will never find someone better than you after a breakup. No one will ever be good enough for you because of what we had. Buffy and Angel from Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Angel, those two TV shows. I feel they both kind of feel that way towards each other after their inevitable breakup. So, I mean, there is the connection that lasts between them for sure. But I feel like both Buffy and Angel, at least from what we see in the TV shows for both of them, not really in the canonical continuation comics, which kind of resolve these weird feelings that they have. Like, especially Angel. There's a lot of arrogance about this relationship, kind of like how the song does. Like, who's gonna know you? Like, Angel's over here, like, but we had a forever love. This arrogance about being each other's soulmate that they both have that the song conveys, but they eventually get over it, especially Buffy. Buffy, I feel like gets over it a lot sooner. Yes, like you go, girl. We love a happy girl.
Is Buffy ever really happy though?
It's she's Joss Whedon's creation. She's not allowed to. She's not
I
allowed to be.
I do really like that. I see the who's gonna hold you and
Hmm.
who's gonna love you like me and like stuff like that. I definitely see that from Angel's perspective, but I like the but you awaken with dread, pounding nails in your head. But I've
Hmm.
read this one where you come undone and I chose this cyclone with you. I really like that from Buffy's perspective.
Yes.
Read this one where you come undone and how many times like Angel goes crazy and like loses his soul and just comes undone
Or even just season 3, where she's dealing with him coming back from his hell dimension and he's suffering. And
like a puppy.
yeah, like, and how she's like, I'm just gonna deal with it because I love him. And it's like, I don't know. It was big of Angel to be like, no, we can't be together. But also, Angel ends up being the pettiest, most immature between the two of them after the breakup. And she's the teenager.
I know.
He's the one who died at 26 and then lived 200 more years.
Yeah, he doesn't have the same excuse as Stefan and Damon. Well, actually, not really Damon. Stefan really is like the eternal teenager because Damon's in his 20s too.
Yeah, that's what bugged me a lot. Angel, he has all these moments where he can let go of that arrogance. Even when he falls in love with other women, it's like, oh no, but who's gonna know you like me? Like, torture poets.
Nobody, you stalker.
Nobody.
That's the point. Angel's a very obsessive person, and he does not have the ability to let Buffy go. And even when Buffy is capable of letting him go, and she does, he worms his way back in. Like he does that when she's with Riley. He
Yeah.
like sneaks back in there and he's like, but no, me. Uh,
Um, but I can kind of get Jinx. I can kind of get why a character like him would have such arrogance. What's nice about Taylor Swift's songs is she writes them in such a personal way that you can empathize, even if we don't agree with what she's doing. But the Tortured Poets department, it feels like you have this special one of a kind thing. And I think that's, yes, what it was for Buffy in a way, because Buffy is 16 years old, 16 and 17, and you feel like your world is falling apart when you lose someone at that age, you're a teenager, it's gonna happen. Angel is this man who's lived a long time as well, and she's the only one that's brought him more purpose, and he's the only one that he's loved in all this time, like genuine love. And so it makes sense that he carries that arrogance, but damn if it isn't frustrating.
I'm over here laughing, looking at the lyrics. Sometimes I wonder if you're going to screw this up with me, but you told Lucy you'd kill yourself if I ever leave. And I had said that to Jack about you, so I felt seen. Everyone we know understands why it's meant to be, because we're crazy. And all I could think of when I looked at those lyrics was the episode where they're possessed by the ghosts.
I like that.
And
Only have eyes for you.
I only have eyes for you, yeah. And it's funny because it's like a swap where he's possessed by the woman and she's possessed by the boy.
I like
But
how you clarified boy.
yes, because he's a student, he's a boy. It's an interesting dynamic shift, but also still so true to how they're actually feeling towards each other. But just the way that that scene plays out and how that goes in pairing with that line, it would be really funny to see like a fan edit video with that in there. Like that's why I started laughing. I was like, I can picture it. But also in terms of Angel, not approving his behavior or excusing his behavior, but also, do you think that Buffy is really the first time he was ever in love?
He said so. I can believe that he's the first person that he feels genuine romantic love towards.
I think he thought that she would just pine for him
Hmm.
and wouldn't move on. He just kind of was of the idea that even if she did move on, she would quickly realize that it wasn't what they had. And the funny thing is no, it's not what you had, but that's a good thing.
Yeah. I
Like,
think personally that every relationship Buffy has after, in healthy and non-healthy ways, does a lot more for her than Angel's. Angel's does do necessary things for her character, traumatizes the poor girl, but you know, she it's done. It was very much a done situation. And I love seeing Angel grow as much as he can in his own show. I really love him in his own show a lot.
yeah, he's a much better character in his own show.
And a song that I feel like really resonates with Angel is I Look in People's Windows. And okay, yes, in a literal way, because he is a creep. He is or the original modern stalker vampire before Edward Cullen, before Stefan Salvatore. It was Angel because he was looking in people's windows. And he was looking in people's windows when he was a good person, air quotes, good person with a soul, because humans have souls. Humans do bad things. It's a morally gray area, really. He was looking in people's windows, literally. And he was also doing it plenty of times, without the soul. I don't know why in my mind it keeps flashing back to two scenes. One when he has no soul and he is looking in through the window of Buffy's house when they find out about Miss Calendar, and he's just kind of grinning. The other scene that I'm imagining is when at the very end of season 4 in his show where he's looking through the house that he left Connor in, and he's looking at the family and he's like, and then he leaves.
Yeah, that's sad.
To go off that, I Look in People's Windows, like the song in a metaphorical way, is all about feeling disconnected from the world, which Angel always feels like he has that disconnect. Which one of my favorite things about adding Cordelia Chase to the show, to his own show, was when, like Doyle, that character, he straight up says it to Angel, like, you need someone to ground you to the world and connect you to that. And Cordelia Chase is that. And I Look in People's Windows for someone like Angel, who is literally and metaphorically doing that, always feeling like an outcast. I feel like that song connects with him a lot. And there's one last thing I need to say, though, about this creeper vampire is that of all these characters, of all these vampires that we can probably put for this song that feel disconnected, because that's what vampires are, they can't really exist within our world exactly because they're always be monsters, right? Angel is the creepiest of all the vampires we can list. even with the soul, even good guy, because he saw his talent of looking in people's windows, the stalking. And he was like, you know what? I'm gonna profit off this. I'm gonna capitalize off this. And he made his little agency, just Angel Investigations was born. The only vampire to profit off of his stalking.
I actually really loved how they did that. The private detective agency, I liked it so much more than just, the weekly monster hunt that Buffy was. I just liked that twist to it a little bit more.
I agree. And also how in Angel, in that show, there are kind of weekly things, but there's always some sort of character development going on at the same time. So we're following an arc. And I really, really like that.
I
But
really like how Cordy's like, "How are you going to pay the bill?
oh yeah, I love that.
Mortal danger? How about your bill?"
Yes. I really like Angel. I know I feel like I've shit talked him. I really, really like him.
He's an interesting character away from Buffy.
I think it's gonna sound harsh. I think they bring out the worst in each other.
They do.
Angel is so obsessive and zeroed in on her that he doesn't grow as much as he could.
I do really love the line, like I'm some deranged weirdo.
Oh, yes. It's another moment of Taylor Swift's humor, and it's another great example of Angel being a deranged weirdo.
It's such a because the song has like this creepy undertone, and then she goes,
Hmm.
like I'm some deranged weirdo, and you're like, oh, okay, now it's funny.
Yeah, yeah, it's good. The self-awareness, which I think Angel has to some extent.
I think he's just a wounded soul.
It
Like, I
really
think
is.
even as a human, he was a wounded soul. And then without his soul, he felt relief and was this horrible, horrible person. Straight from the tortured souls department.
If we're talking torture poets, we got to move on to Spike then.
Literally, he tortured people and he's a poet.
Yeah,
How did we not talk about Spike at all?
we didn't. Well, we brought him up for Florida. Poor Spike. He was brought up as a coping mechanism.
Aw, you could probably bring him up for Tortured Poets Department, the song. Who uses typewriters anyway? William the Bloody would use a typewriter.
I could see him using a typewriter. It'd be funny.
His little black nail polish.
Yes! Something you were saying about Buffy's how she keeps growing, how she learns and grows from these relationships. It's interesting how she grows past this where Angel doesn't. And in a way, I felt like I could kind of relate that to the manuscript, the song. How she ends up growing past this. Like this was a big, tumultuous relationship for her. Core memory, if you will. I felt like it could like Angel is an older man, right? And that's kind of what the manuscript is about, like this older person coming on to this younger, more naive, I mean, girl, let's just say that, and taking advantage, saying that they're like hyping this girl up, like they can be someone that can handle them and be with them. I mean, it's not that Angel wasn't trying to keep her away from him, but at the same time, he wasn't telling her to, like, he wasn't stopping her from, like, Angel
Mixed
wasn't doing
signals.
a good job.
Mixed signals.
Yeah.
I really love the line. He said that if the sex was half as good as the conversation was, soon they'd be pushing strollers, but soon it was over. Just in terms of like Buffy and Angel and their relationship and the limitations that their relationships had.
Hmm.
That line's just kind of a funny one thinking about them. Then she dated boys who were her own age.
With dartboards on the back of their doors. It just makes me imagine Riley's little mini basketball hoop thing.
Yeah. She thought about how he said she was so wise beyond her years. Everything had been above board. She wasn't sure.
This song, it kind of fantasizes a little bit the idea of a life with this older man and what it would look like. And I feel like Buffy does that a lot too. There are little moments where she's like, "Oh, I wished you could be human," or "I wish like this is the future I see of us, even though you can't necessarily have kids," which is very ironic for Angel and his story. But yeah, I thought that fit. their relationship fit for that too.
Yeah, I can see that for sure.
I do have one last thing to say about the manuscript in relation to Buffy, and that is that I feel like it could also be like that last line of the story isn't mine anymore could not even be about relationship. It could be about how she is the chosen one, and then that mantle ends up getting passed, and every girl's chosen.
Yeah, I do like that too. It is weird how they keep writing these stories about teenage girls and like 100-year-old vampires.
Mm-hmm.
Bella, Elena, Buffy, they're all young high schoolers. And it's interesting because Edward and Stefan are both forever teenagers, but Angel is an adult. So that is an interesting distinction.
There are little things where, like, the mom first meets Angel, and she's like, he's older than you.
I
Like,
think she literally says he's a little old for
yeah,
you.
he's a little old for you. And then later, when she finds out what they did, she's like he's older. He's an older man. And then in the flashback, when Angel first sees Buffy, there's all this imagery of like how juvenile she is, like her with the lollipop. And that's the
Hmm.
first time he sees her. Later in like a third season, he's like, I saw you and I loved you. And I'm over here thinking, her with the lollipop? Like, what? When she was 15?
Little
Okay.
baby Buffy, almost as bad as Jacob and Renesmee.
But anyway, Buffy got past it. Took a lot of effort. She was able to let it go. Just like Taylor Swift let the story go with not just the manuscript, but all her songs and albums. And now that we've covered the manuscript, we're done.
I can't believe we covered everything. All 31 songs. Except, the Bolter was kind of a brief mention.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we hope you enjoyed listening to us compare these characters and all these songs in our extra long, extra special premiere episode. We hope you unpack the plot with us next time and join us for our next episode where we'll be covering Bridgerton.
Yes. You can expect new episodes every other Wednesday.
And you can follow us on our very new Instagram at Unpacking the Plot Pod.
Well, I'm Ava.
And I'm Issa.
Thanks for listening.
Bye.